All right, guys, the geopolitics of oil, decoding the Venezuela opportunity. Okay, so we're going to talk about power policy and energy markets. Um, I know I'm pretty sure all of you have heard of what's going on in Venezuela. So let's kind of dig in a little bit to see what are the specifics, what do you need to know, what is the hype, why you should be hype or why you shouldn't be hype. Let's get into the details. All right, guys. So if you didn't know, on January 3rd, just a few days ago, President Trump went and got the president of Venezuela, or captured the president of Venezuela, and he announced a plan for American oil companies to lead the revitalization of Venezuela's energy sector, framing it as a move to secure U.S. investments and establish long-term energy dominance. Okay. The quote that we have here, we will invite our very large American oil companies to invest billions and they now let's talk about Venezuela's oil. So we know that there's Saudi Arabia, there's oil there, there's oil in Canada, but Venezuela actually has way more oil than any of these, right? Now, just because they have the oil does not mean that they are actually producing and they have been making money off of all this oil. So dense and so thick, okay? But because of the collapsed oil market in Venezuela, even though there's 303 billion barrels over there, you're only going to see on record maybe a few million, maybe one or two. Okay. So we have a few different people, and when I say people, I'm talking companies, a few different people in mind that I want you all to pay attention to because these are the American companies that are going to be affected by what could potentially happen here. Okay. We have the incumbent. Incumbent just basically means this is a company that is already over there. Okay. They've had contracts over there before. If you look here, the only U.S. operational license in over 100 years of history in Venezuela is going to be Chevron. Okay. They're already producing oil. Existing assets are optimized to supply its own U.S. Gulf Coast refineries with ideal heavy crude scaling existing operations, not starting from scratch. So that ticker is CVX. Okay. CVX. Then we have the claimant. So these two, we have Conoco and Exxon. Both of these companies had significant assets nationalized by Hugo in 2007, leading to massive, largely unpaid international arbitration awards. So this is going to be an issue. However, these are companies that are kind of already or have some sort of conversation prior to 2026 in regards to actually getting oil over there. Okay, so U.S. policy creates a mechanism for these claims to be settled, potentially through new production deals or direct oil allocation. So hopefully, once everything gets back up and running, these two companies can go in or can come back in and um, can get the monies or the monies that they're owed. I think Conoco is owed 10 billion. Yeah, 10 billion. And Exxon is over 1 billion. Okay. This represents a significant trapped value proposition that the policy can release. Okay. So the ticker for Conoco is COP and the ticker for Exxon is EXXON. Okay. EXXON. Now let's talk about the ripple effect, right? Because we talked about three companies. We talked about Chevron, Conoco, and Exxon, right? Those are the three American-based oil companies that already have some sort of relationship with Venezuela already, right? So one of them actually is kind of there already. And the other two are actually owed money. So that could make the situation a lot easier for them to come back and start doing what they need to do, right? So let's talk about some other companies and other things we need to be thinking about, okay? Profit is found in margin, not the oil field. The key is leveraging a structural advantage in the feedstock. So let me make some sense of that. So we want to make sure that we understand a couple other companies. There, and I'm just going to give you the tickers first. BLO, PSX, and MPC. Okay. Bolero is VLO, Phillips is PSX, and we have Marathon MPC. Their complex U.S. Gulf Coast refineries are specifically designed to process the heavy, sour crude that Venezuela produces in abundance. Increased supply of this feedstock keeps its price at a discount, okay? Directly lowering input costs and widening refining margins by a potential 5 to 15%. They profit from the volume and type of oil, insulating them for a geopolitical risk of operating within Venezuela. Valero was one of the largest importers of Venezuelan crude oil in October 2025, taking 1.6 million barrels, demonstrating existing logistical ties. So they've technically already been there, right? So we want to make sure that we pay attention to this. It's not just about the oil, it's the type of oil that's there, right? And because it's a certain type of oil, and we already have companies here, right, who are able to process this oil, that puts them in an even better position. So even though they might not be able to be pulling the oil out of the ground in Venezuela, they can process it once it gets here to America. Okay. And then let's talk about the third thing. Okay. The third ripple effect is going to be profiting from the volume. Profiting from the volume. Basically the toll roads of the energy economy. As long as oil flows, there's going to be a fee collected. Okay, there's going to be a fee collected. The movers and shippers, infrastructure rewards patience. So, there are a few companies who are moving oil from one place to another. So, there I'm going to give you the tickers for these companies. KMI, ENB, and TNK. Okay? KMI is Kinder Morgan. ENB is Enbridge. Okay. And TNK is TK Tankers. So we have the different players. We have midstream. These are going to be the pipelines and the storage. That's going to be the KMI and the ENB. They're going to benefit from the increased volumes flowing through their vast Gulf Coast network. Higher put means more revenue for long-term contracts. Okay, and that just means people are going back and forth, right? Then we have our shipping, which is going to be our tankers. TK Tankers benefits from the increased demand of the vessels suited for Venezuelan crude oil. Longer shipping routes driven by global market re-engagements can boost daily rates. Okay. And then, all right, so let's get realistic here. Okay. This is just information based off what we've learned so far, what we've seen in the news, not with any updates. Okay, so this is literally as of January the 3rd. Okay, this is no update. So, as there are updates with what's happening here, I will absolutely upload videos just so y'all kind of know how to move forward. But I want to make sure that we're being realistic here. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Rebuilding Venezuela's infrastructure is literally going to take years. So I don't want you to feel rushed like you have to go invest in any of these companies immediately. They've only been doing maybe one, right? If they haven't been producing that, do they even have skilled people there who could potentially train the Americans on how to use these? Who are the people who are going to work this rebuild? Is a really good question, especially if they're not used to manufacturing that much oil. Even though it's there, they're not used to manufacturing it at that scale. So that's kind of going to be the first 1 to 2 years. Then we have 2 to 5. That's scaling production. That's going from producing 1 billion a year to producing maybe 10 billion a year to 12 billion a year, figuring out what that looks like, right? And then full optimization and upgrade and overall getting all of the production up to full steam and figuring out what that looks like. Having contracts, other companies come in, right? This could take a while, but it will be around this range once everything starts to really clear up. And when I say clear up, this will be the time that you will profit from um, what has taken place in Venezuela today, okay, or over the last few days. So we want to make sure that we truly understand. I want to make sure you truly understand. This is not something that you need to be rushing to get into. Make sure you understand it, the whys, the hows, all of those things. But also remember, there's a lot of things that have to take place that we aren't in control of before any prices are going to change dramatically or drastically before the price of gas could potentially go down or like we've been speculating online. So a lot of things have to take place before this can actually be something where you're going to be able to really see some residuals from it immediately. So just keep that in mind and also put together your watch list based off the information we've looked at over here today. Okay. Here are the different companies here. So direct access is going to be Chevron and Conoco. Okay, those are the two companies already there. Marginal plays, this is going to be value because these are the companies who are able to process the type of oil that are there, right? The heavy crude oil. So that's going to be Valero, Phillips, and Marathon. Then you have the volume play, and that's going to be the KMI, the EMB, and I forget the other one, but these are the ones that are going to be moved. These are the ones that are going to be moving the oil from one place to another. Remember, markets follow power. The Venezuela situation is a masterclass in how political power directly shapes economic outcomes. The ability to control resources, dictate policy, and secure infrastructure creates a systematic advantage that markets inevitably price in. Okay? Control of a resource is leverage. Policy creates winners and infrastructure is dominant. So let's do a quick review. The U.S. intervention in Venezuela is a strategic move to control the world's largest oil reserve and secure energy dominance. That's the goal. Okay. This opportunity is going to unfold in ripples, kind of like we talked about earlier. So we have Chevron, Conoco, Valero, Phillips, Marathon, Kinder, and Enbridge, all of these companies are going to potentially be affected, okay? Affected in some way, shape, form, or fashion, specifically by what is happening with this Venezuela takeover, okay? So we just want to make sure that we put these companies on our watch list. If you're not already invested in them, you have time, right? Because this can't happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of money, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of change. All right, guys, if you don't have any questions for me, I will see you on the next call.